Hello to the world and anyone out there who's watching. I'm the amazing Tomahawk, also known as T-Hawk, but you can call me Tom. And you may have noticed it's kind of 2022 now. Yeah. Look, the truth is with this video is I've kind of been a bit busy with things. And then busyness started to turn to like problems, and then all that started to create mental health issues. And now it's gotten to the point where I can't edit a video. I'm not saying this is going to be the whole video. All I'm saying is that basically this is going to be more of a podcast style video instead of like my old edited videos that I did the last Steam Summer Sale. I honestly can't edit a video right now. It's way too much work, way too much repetition, way too much stuff that'll get me anxious or something. I don't know. But I don't need to talk about mental health here. I'm just giving that disclaimer so you understand the type of video this is going to be. That being said, there's about like 14 games that I bought this year. And that's up from like 10 last year. So I'm really feeling that this will be a good video. And how do I even continue? You know what? Let's begin. I'm going to be perfectly honest. I didn't expect to like this game as much as I did. I mean, I enjoy open world games even though I don't have time for them. And zombies are pretty cool too. But honestly, I heard pretty mixed things both from people I know and critics. So my expectations going in were pretty modest. How'd I come out? I told you, I didn't expect to like it as much as I did. The basic idea is that you're in a city that became overrun with zombies and you have to survive not using guns, technically using pipes and wrenches, but really using parkour. First-person parkour always interested me, but if you look at the obvious example, it can often be a lot of work involved to make it work right. Well, that's still true here. It's a lot easier to get used to in this game. In fact, exploring the city is probably the best part of this game. I mean, you're not going to find some crazy overpowered weapon just by climbing a building, but it's the satisfying challenge of pulling it off that feels good. Not the reward you get from doing it. Why? Because the parkour is so damn fun. I'd even put it above Mirror's Edge if only for the fact that you're not only allowed to explore, but encouraged. I mean, sure, it's annoying that you lose experience when you die, which, if you're like me, 9 times out of 10 involves falling from a building. And maybe the story and combat could use some work, but honestly, I think I'm ready to stay human. Let's just say this one's not for me. Honestly, I had no interest in this game until I found out the creator of OKKO Let's Be Heroes liked it so much, he had the developers make a game out of his show, which was a game. But either way, I figured, you know what, OKKO is cool, maybe I'll give it a shot. Frustration and aggravation ensued. The game has you playing as a group of time-traveling soldiers trying to make the world a better place. Not the most original premise, but it lays a solid foundation for a wide variety of games this could have been. What it chose was a run-and-gun shoot-'em-up with an incredibly obtrusive gimmick. It's hard to really narrow down what said gimmick is, as it lays the basis for almost everything you do in the game, but I'll try and make it quick. In the game, you play as a group of soldiers, each with a purposefully situational ability. When you choose or when you die, you time out and have to turn back time and maybe choose someone else, and then go from that point in time until the next time you time out or die. Each time you do this, a copy of yourself basically becomes a tangible Mario Kart ghost and does exactly what you did until they die. The entire game is based around this gimmick. Heavily. While it sounds like it would add a lot of strategy, it doesn't actually add as much as you'd think. I got through most of my time by just making a lot of soldiers and just doing something similar until it worked. If this game didn't rely so much on a gimmick, it could have been great. Make the levels longer, increase your damage output, give you fair respawns, maybe give it multiplayer, and you have a game that would have been pretty average, but more coherent and less frustrating. Also, the writing in this game is absolute dog shit. I need to mention that. I understand it's OKKO-esque, but even that show didn't have that good a sense of humor most of the time, and it's like they took the show's worst jokes and put them in a game, and next game, please! You know what kind of game I wish I was good at? Stylized action games. You know, the ones that reward you for kicking ass and looking cool doing it. Thing is, I'm often not very good at these types of games. I usually play them on easy only because learning complex abilities is hard and I don't want to get stuck and give up when it's just getting good. Then there's my friend Pedro. I don't have a friend named Pedro, there I said it, moving on. This is a game I've had my eye on since it was announced, but it's one I haven't played until just now. So, now that I've played the game, what are my thoughts? Might be too early to call it, but this might just be one of the best action games I've ever played. Bold statement, I know, just hear me out. In My Friend Pedro, you play as Guy in Mask who wakes up to a talking banana who's like, "Yo, it's not safe here, we gotta bounce." So you grab a pair of guns and have to shoot your way through evil mob dudes. And that's just the first level. And all I've played so far, so no spoilers or else! The game plays like Hotline Miami, but a side-scroller and more focused on making you look cool than it is punishing you literally every 3 seconds. The amount of cool shit you can do in this game is technically limited, but not even by much. And man, does it feel good to do. Dropping up from above on 2 dudes and shooting them with the pistols in each of your hands never gets old. Same with shooting from a zip line or shooting a frying pan so that the bullets can ricochet into the bad guys. The best part? None of it is hard to do! Yes! Unpopular opinion, but I play these types of games more for the power fantasy than the challenge. This is a game that understands that perspective and allows you to do all this stuff just to make you feel cool. I mean, yeah, it's kinda easy, but bullet time! Okay, next game. If I was about 14 years old, I would be all over Figment. I'm 23 now. And you'd think that would make me appreciate it more. But instead, it just makes me less forgiving to its shortcomings. Figment is a game that takes place in the mind of someone who's clearly going through some stuff at the moment. Good start. It has you playing as a being meant to help when things go wrong in said mind. Okay, I like a good metaphor for mental illness. Also, the game is a musical. Wait, what?! You might not know this about me, but I love musicals. In fact, for me, a good story can be saved if it's a musical. But musical video games that aren't rhythm games are extremely rare. There's only 3 that come to mind when I think of those I've played. But one doesn't count because there's rarely any singing. One is barely a game, and the last one more people really need to play. Tangent aside, what else does this game offer? Well, it's essentially a Bastion clone with a focus on puzzles rather than combat. Okay, interesting move. And the puzzles mostly boil down to go here, get this, put that here, turn it on, and you lost me. I mean, yeah, there's some interesting puzzles here and there, but the vast majority of them involve getting a battery to power something or moving a platform to get to a higher area. That would be fine if it wasn't the game's focus, but it is. The combat is awful, the writing is unpleasantly mean-spirited, even the art style is just plain ugly. All the game had to fall back on, aside from its story, which I'm sure has its oh shit moment eventually, but I have no interest in getting to it, was its puzzles. And they suck. I'm sure people like this game enough, given that it's getting a sequel soon, but personally, my tastes have changed. Also, really? The first boss after beating the tutorial is a monster that throws farts at you and sings about throw up? That's really what you're leading with? Yeah, let's talk about something else now. So I bought all 4 Trine games. I mean, it is the Steam Summer Sale after all. So here's how this section's gonna work. Since these games are so fundamentally similar, I'm going to give a general idea on what the Trine series is here, and then go into detail on each game's take on the formula and their own quick sections so this just doesn't become Tom Talks About Trine the video. The Trine games are a series of platformers that take place in a fantasy setting and have a strong focus on co-op, particularly relating to each of the 3 main characters' abilities. The best way I could describe it is that it's like if Jumanji were a Little Big Planet game. You solve physics-based puzzles much like LBP, and you solve them with each character's abilities much like in the latter 2 Jumanji movies. Make sense? Good. Let's start from the beginning. Don't get me wrong, this is great, but they had to start somewhere. Trine 1 definitely has that first game feel, but in the same way as Kingdom Hearts 1. Both games have all the essential pieces of what makes their respective series great, but little more, and in Trine's case, a bit more than an ounce of jank. Not to mention the game's dated UI and cutscenes. But don't let that stop you from playing it, because again, everything's still there. You just have to accept the Xbox Live arcadiness of it. Which, if you played any game in the series and enjoyed it, you probably have. This one I got from PlayStation Plus a while back and thought, it's okay, and barely made it past the first level. Now, I have a much greater respect for this game. It's easy to pass this off as Trine 1 again, but if you look deeper, it's so much more than that. Right out of the gate, you'll notice that the game actually has cutscenes now. Not drawings, cutscenes. Not a huge deal since story isn't the focus in many of these games, but more production value's always welcome, especially within the gameplay. Yeah. This game's environmental puzzles are literally environmental. It's so cool to use more than just boxes to solve puzzles, especially considering most games with environmental puzzles in general just leave it at that. I could go on, but we have 2 more games, so let's keep going. Really? This is what you're so mad about? In case you don't know, or haven't noticed, Trine 3 is considered the black sheep of the series, and as far as I understand, much of that comes from the complete redesign of the gameplay. The game is now a 3D platformer in the vein of Little Nightmares. Honestly, I went into this game ready to bash it like everyone else, and yet came out liking it more than any other game in the series. Yeah, I bet you didn't see that one coming. The thing that impressed me the most was how each character's movesets were translated into 3D and how the levels are designed around this. It would have been so easy to just put the 2D moveset into 3D without change, and even easier not to design the levels around it. But they made enough changes to both to make the transition surprisingly smooth. Oh, you want to hear something bad about the game? Triangles suck. I think that's what they're called. They're basically that thing that I don't like that is used to gate progress in a game, and I don't like them, and they're bad. There's that. I'm just going to say it now. This is easily the worst game in the series. Oh, you're surprised? I mean, I get it. This is the game that was meant to save the Trine series from a terrible direction. And I know what you're thinking. Tom, you just didn't think the series needed a course correction and you're mad they gave it one. See, that's just not true. While I was a fan of Trine 3, I was also a fan of Trine 1 and 2. So I didn't mind that they wanted to go back to the roots of the series. My problem lies in the execution of the formula this time around. Many of the puzzles this time around don't use the environment like Trine 2 did and are now just generic block puzzles. On top of that, there are mandatory combat sections in a series where the combat was weak and a story that is just there as an experiment to see if these games could have one. If this is your first Trine game, I feel for you, because the series is so much more than this, and you're probably turned off from playing any of the other games now. Do not start with this. Start with 1 or 2. They're old, but they play so much better. And that's all the Trine games. How do I end this? You know what? Just go to the next game. You know what? This ain't actually half bad. To catch you up to speed, Drawn to Life was a series that began on the DS where the main gimmick was that it was a platformer where you had the ability to draw your own character and stage assets like platforms and weapons. Sounds like the most kid thing ever, right? Well, anyone who's played these games, especially those that finish them, can tell you that these games can be for anyone with a creative mind and a passion for good storytelling. A decade passes and nowadays DSs are for nerds, so how do you continue the series? You just kinda do it, but it somehow works. It's no secret that people hate this game, and going in, I was ready to hate it as well. And yet it pulled a Trine 3 on me. All I've been saying so far is that this game is actually good, but let me explain myself. The basic idea is that now you can use the Book of Imagination to not only go to the human realm, which, yeah, the other games didn't take place in, but also to enter people's minds, and this seems to be the main issue. I mean, yeah, I'm pretty sure the mind of an angry little girl doesn't look identical to every other mind out there, but the real issue is instead of an open level to explore, you're given one room at a time and a goal on how to exit. It's not the smartest change. I would have at least liked the ability to draw the, toys, as they're called. But what a lot of people seem to have forgotten is that the original games didn't even have great gameplay either. In fact, there's even a level of challenge here that the originals lacked. It most likely won't make you throw your controller or whatever you're using, but it's enough to make you think differently on how to approach your next run. The same can be said for the puzzle rooms, where you have to place each enemy in a way that will lead you towards the exit. It's still not great. I would have preferred the original level types, but it's enough to get you through the game. Also, I want to say this before we move on. I named my guy Weirdo, so I got the funniest lines that weren't even meant to be all that funny, and I couldn't help but laugh. It was like when I named my Fire Emblem Awakening character Butt Cheek and Chrom proposed to her. Anyways, you know what else some of these guys made? What this game claims to be. A fun little game where you go around helping people by typing in whatever they need so it can magically appear in an attempt to save your sister. What this game actually is: the most fuck around sandbox game ever created, where you have the ability to do whatever you goddamn want with no limits or repercussions. Literally the first thing I did after the tutorial was spawn in a giant monster to attack the city. I even got rewarded for it. I died 30 seconds later and killed my brother in the process, but that's the thing. Whenever you want, all you need to do is reset and the world goes back to how it was before everything went to shit. Even in the main missions, or even just the smaller missions, you can mess around and make some really funny stuff happen. An example I could give is at one point I was at a hospital and one of my brothers needed surgery, so the surgeon's like, yo, give me them ton tools, I need to save your bro and shit. And it would be so easy to just say scalpel and call it a day, but we can do better, so I gave him a katana. My brother then ran off as the surgeon chased him with a samurai sword. This game is full of stuff like this. But if you're a wimp, you can still play the game as intended. You'll still have to feed a cannibal a human body eventually, but at least you get one of them starites. On the other end of the spectrum, of course, you could give yourself a gun and shoot up a diner, but I'd never do that. No, I'm a good little boy who knows how precious human life can be. And no, I'm trying to save my sister, and that would make her really angry. So yeah, I'd never do that, but you know, it's an option. I remember playing this game on the Wii U, and it's probably the most fun I've had on the system. But the Steam version has Steam Workshop support, so even those dirty words are allowed if you're willing to dig for them. Like, actually, you can't even spawn in wine for a vampire. But aside from that, this is a game I can recommend to anyone who likes being creative. Whether you're a little kid who likes to draw in art class, a grown-up who wants their OCs real, or you're just a fucked up person who wants everyone to die. No judgment, but judgment. I honestly wasn't sure what to expect from this game. I had heard a lot about it. I heard it's underrated. I heard it had really good characters and world building. I heard it involved photography. I heard it's never going to get a sequel. But what I didn't know well was generally what kind of game this was. Now, after playing it, I think I know what kind of game this is. This might sound weirdly specific, but this is the kind of game I'd go to my friend's house to play because I didn't have a PS2 and didn't play T-rated games. I know it came out on the GameCube, but this is generally the type of game I would have missed out on because other than Melee, I wouldn't really play a T-rated game until Soul Calibur Broken Destiny. Yeah, I missed out on a lot of cool games. That being said, I'm glad I played this one. It didn't make a good first impression with its lack of controller support and abysmal frame rate in its first few moments, but I got used to mouse and keyboard, and the frame rate somehow improved as I played. So what is this game? Honestly, the best comparison I could make would be Zelda. I mean, think about it. It's a dungeon-based third-person action game with a focus on exploration. I mean, it plays different, yeah, and the puzzles aren't as challenging, but the more you think about it, the more you realize this is pretty much sci-fi Zelda. Actually, come to think of it, that sounds fucking amazing. But the thing I like most about it is just how 2000s it feels. I mean, you could say that about any 3D platformer from the 2000s, but there's something to be said about how just about every aspect of this game embodies the 2000s. A lot of games back then had a visual style like this, played like this, felt like this, and then those shiny new PS3s and Xbox 360s said, nah, actually we can make games look and play like real life now, so we don't want those cartoons on our screens, we're adults, not children. And now if you want games like this, you use your Switch. If I were playing this game on a TV with a GameCube controller, I would have felt like I was 8 again. And you know what? It actually would have felt good. And I hate 8-year-old me. That kid was somehow a bigger weirdo than even me. Shit, I barely talked about the actual game. It's underrated. It's got really good characters and world building. It involves photography, and it's never getting a sequel. People were right. Oh, I see what they're trying to do here. For those of you who don't know or just haven't figured it out yet, Death Road to Canada is someone's take on the Oregon Trail, which is a zombie take on the Oregon Trail. What you need to know is that the games involve getting together a party of people and trying to make it across the country without getting sick or dying. Death Road to Canada takes this idea and decides, you know what would be cool? What if you could get out of your car and explore? On paper, this sounds like a cool idea, about the equivalent of Tomahawk getting off his skateboard, but if you can make it work, more power to you. But here's the thing. They were so focused on this whole get out of the car and explore thing, they forgot to flesh out the experience around it. I mean, yeah, your characters have traits in this game, but there's also very little resource management, which kind of defeats the purpose of the time in the car. Even the choices are kind of garbage. Most aren't even that difficult and involve more mean-spirited writing, which can work. I love Rick and Morty, for example, but this kind of thing doesn't appeal to me as much as some people. That being said, once you get out of your car, the game is a lot better. Not great, but a lot better. Getting out of your car happens every time you make a stop, so thankfully often. And when it happens, you're given a goal, and if you die for good. You have weapons and you can find more, but because modern gaming, everything breaks and your guns have ammo. I don't mind this, the game would be too easy otherwise, but it does leave you vulnerable in front of a horde of zombies, which is never fun. At the end of the day, this is a mobile or flash game the edgy kid would play in school until the teacher's like, I don't think so, and yeets your laptop out the window. It's just a game meant to pass the time, and almost always those are just enough to keep me from boredom until something happens. Never any more than that. For what that's worth, it's pretty fun, but it won't change your life. Next up on Tom Talks About Zombie Games. This game. This is nostalgic for me. Yeah. I was like 13 or 14 when I first played this. Older brother? Yep, that's me. Dead Rising 2 was one of those games I was good just playing the opening every time I started because the save system is dog shit, but it was also because it was fucking Dead Rising. For the uninitiated, Dead Rising is Capcom's other zombie franchise where instead of solving puzzles and managing resources, you take on hordes of zombies using whatever you can find around you. To put it into perspective, you rarely use guns in these games. You use, anything. As long as it's there, it's yours to use. Could be as simple as a baseball bat, or if you want to combine weapons, a fucking lightsaber. Yeah, I did this all the time when I was younger. Figured it out myself too. But the game isn't just a stress reliever. Though it works great as that, it also has a lot of time management involved as well. See, along with having a time limit as to when the military will show up and rescue everyone, which serves as your timer for the whole game as far as I know, you also need to get medicine for your daughter, and she needs it at a very specific time every 24 hours. On top of that, every story mission occurs at a certain time, and every side mission is on a timer. It's a bit overwhelming, but considering most Capcom games ask this much of you, you kind of get used to it. Actually, come to think of it, asking you to form a schedule is an unusual thing to ask of its players, and I kinda like it. The only real problem that isn't as big as I remember is the save system. It's like in Resident Evil that you need to do it in a special room, which in this case is the bathroom. Thankfully, all you really need to do is find one. They didn't make ink ribbons into toilet paper or something like that. But they're spread throughout the area, and when I was 13 or 14, I didn't know you could just find them on the map. Honestly though, even with that knowledge, it does mean throwing yourself at danger just to empty yourself and come back next time. That being said, this is probably the best Dead Rising game. I honestly haven't played 1. 3 is mechanically better and more accessible, just not as fun. And 4 can go suck it. Actually, while we're on the subject of Capcom games... I know, just hear me out. So, after I played Devil May Cry 5 on my PS5, I've been meaning to get into the series. I know the entire series goes on sale every Tuesday, but I had an $80 budget and couldn't quite fit any of the real games in there, if only just by a couple bucks. So I had to settle with Dante at Home instead. Based on what I had heard, my thought process going in was, this won't be as good as the mainline series, but it could come close. It didn't come close, but I wouldn't call it bad. The only truly bad thing in my time with the game is the obvious. Dante himself. Yes, I have stuff to add to the conversation. Honestly, I was ready to give him a chance. I figured Delson Rose is my favorite superhero of all time, and he has his fair share of haters. Maybe he's like Nero from Devil May Cry 5, where he's a total badass and just doesn't know his limits. Nope, this guy is a fucking poser. I'll try and make this quick. First of all, you only introduce your main character by showing them having a threesome if it's either a raunchy comedy or you want the person watching to hate them. And Dante is not someone you want to hate. Second, he feels like he's trying way too hard to be mainline Dante, with his spin on it being that kid from the Linkin Park concert. But I'm not good at character studies, so let's talk what I really came here for. Gameplay. I've played better. I want to get this quick out of the way first. Remember in the My Friend Pedro section I said I wished I was better at these kinds of games? I feel comfortable saying I'm pretty decent at this too. And considering how few of these kinds of games I can say that about right out of the gate, that's at least something worth commending. I can't even say that about Devil May Cry 5 after beating that game. That being said, it's far from perfect. For one, there's no lock-on system, and that made stingers a whole lot of fun. Second, there's not a whole lot of weight to the combat. Attacks happen so fast it feels like you whacked the demon with a stick, not your sword. It looks cool, sure, but I'd prefer to feel that I hit a bit harder with each strike. Even the weapon designed specifically to be heavy feels this way. Finally, the cost of making you feel good at the combat right out of the gate is that this game seems to have a low skill ceiling. That's not usually something I complain about, but with a game like this, I'd prefer a balance to be struck, if only because I've seen it done. That being said, this game just feels decent, and considering how much I loved Devil May Cry 5, I just expected to like this game a little more. I gotta stop comparing games to other games. And that's all the games I got from the Steam Summer Sale 2021. So basically this is another just unscripted section. In case you couldn't figure it out, the beginning of this video was also unscripted, but I'll try and make it good. As far as a winner goes for this game, I think I did a winner last year, so may as well do a winner this year. I don't know, My Friend Pedro maybe. That's what I have in the actual script that I'm not going off of right now. But, I also really like Trine. I really like Scribblenauts. And Dead Rising 2 is pretty fun, and that's in the script too. But, I don't know what the winner would be, but Look, the truth is that I won't be making videos for a while. It's just editing videos is really hard for me right now. I've mentioned that I'm on like the road to recovery right now as far as my mental health is concerned, but it's gonna be a while. In the meantime, I do plan on doing more streaming. I had a lot of fun when I was like streaming for the Halloween live stream. And I kind of wanted to do more of that. I did get a few subscribers from the Halloween live stream, so, you know, I might like post clips on this channel or something like that. But I don't see myself doing that too often. As far as what I'd be streaming, I'm planning on streaming mostly dreams because it's just kind of crazy the type of stuff people make in dreams, and it's really fun to like react to. It's really fun to talk about. It's really fun to experience. But if that's not your thing, I did pre-order Ollie Ollie World, so if you want to see me play Ollie Ollie World, then, you know, I'm probably already in the process of streaming it right now. I don't know. But we'll see. We'll see. There's a lot that goes on right now in my life that's just personal. I don't need to talk about it. But this is the unscripted part of the video. It's coming out better than I thought it would. Anyways, I'm just gonna ask the question. The question I ask in every one of my videos, but no one knows what that question is. Are you sure you want to quit?